Yes, it is wonderful that technology is progressing and new things are being added to video games each and every day, but sometimes you kinda look back and think to yourself, wait a minute, weren't some of the old ideas that got dropped not all that bad? Wouldn't it be nice if some of the old ideas for video games would be tried again, maybe done at least as good as they used to be done? So this is the top 7 video game ideas that needed to make a comeback, a show dedicated to all those kooky, crazy ideas from the early dawn of the video game age that have been abandoned over the years but still would kind of work today. Okay, some of them are not ancient, they're actually somewhat recent, but they seem to have disappeared. And I'm not talking about ideas like, oh, let's put zombies in every game. No, it's more of a different kind of design thing. You'll see when we get started, which is right now. What number 7? Clothes stacking. Remember some of the earlier, or not earlier, but some RPGs a bunch of years ago where you would have your character and you would equip armor on them, but then you decide, you know what, this armor kind of looks like crap. I want to put something over. I want to hide the armor with a robe, and then I can walk incognito through the land and people would not know that I'm an actually high-level character that I have hidden abilities beneath my robe. And when some muggers attack me, I will cast it off and reveal my shining armor that doesn't look that good, but has really good stats. Well, you can do that in games, most games nowadays. You just have your armor slot, that's it. Back in the old days, you used to have under armor, over armor, armor, clothes. You used to have a lot more choices in mainstream games. Yeah, you can probably still find something like this in an indie title that's made by an obsessive person that wants this kind of detail that I'm saying games should have. But the mainstream doesn't really do that because, well, you'd have to work on implementing such a feature. And you know, why do that when you can just not have it? Take the Elder Scrolls series, for example. It used to have it. Imagine my shock when I tried to equip a robe over my armor in Oblivion, seeing that my armor got unequipped. That's not even mentioning that you no longer have the ability to wear a single glove like you're a rock star. The gaming industry has declared war on fashion. Yeah, they've added cosmetics, crappy ones with microtransactions everywhere. Oh, you can paint your face now. Cool. Can I wear a single glove? A single white glove? No, but I could back in the old days. Number 6, joysticks. I know they're technically still around, but they haven't really made new ones in a while. Now sure, the VR ones may take over when they become more affordable, but until then, there's not really a lot of them out there. The only ones you can find in the market are the Logitech One, and I mean the actual Logitech One. There's the Trustmaster One, and well, technically there's 2 Trustmaster Ones. One of them costs more than my house. And then there's the other Logitech ones, which are the old Cytec ones. And I've been asking Logitech every year. There's an event and I get to ask questions and things. Every year I ask them, are you going to release new joysticks? I've been asking this more frequently since they bought Cytec. And the answer is kind of always no. Well, to be fair, there aren't all that many high-profile Oh yeah, there are. There are 2 of them, actually. One of them raised a bajillion amount of money and was actually trying to make its own joystick. Unfortunately, Mad Catz was a pile of crap, and partnering up with them is considered by the developers of Star Citizen one of the greatest mistakes they've ever made, not counting choosing CryEngine. So we kinda need joysticks. We need a Kickstarter at least for a new joystick that's using old fangly new technology with, I don't know, buttons that look cool and a lever that won't break off. The Cytec ones look nice. I mean, the cheapest one looks nice. The one that's more expensive and won't break off looks kind of like crap, and then there's the one that costs more than my house does. But you don't get a sense that there's many of them on the market. Not like gamepads. Gamepads are everywhere, everybody's making them, but joysticks, Well, yeah, a lot of them are being made in China. I have one that is being sold under 5 different names in every country in the world, and it's crap. It's a ripoff of the Logitech Pro 3D one that's been... I think that one was made first in 2005 or something. It's ancient by now, so we need new ones and games to use them on soon. Number 5, split screen. Remember that? Remember when you could get your games console and get your friends and sit down on a couch with your friends and your beer and your beer's friends, and the beer, everybody likes beer for some reason. I heard beer is very, very good and people like it a lot. Like, people like beer a lot, and I mean they really like beer a lot for some reason. Recently it's been a thing on the internet. I don't get why, but I think everybody's not alcoholic and they should probably admit they have a problem and should probably stop drinking so much beer. But after you got out of the coma, you could play a game in split screen with multiple people on the same console. Or on the PC. You had that on the PC as well. You had that for eons, and then it stopped, and people were not outraged about this. Well, why would they? I mean, it's not like they have friends anymore. They moved away. They changed schools. Now they're living in different cities, and they're alone, and they think to themselves, why am I alone? Why am I not going outside and talking to other people instead of making this show and complaining about split screen not being in games anymore? Because it's not. Split screen needs to be in games anymore. It's not maybe as useful for finding players if you don't have any friends. I mean, we have online for that, but split screen had its own benefit, its own positive attributes, like being able to punch the person next to you if they talk smacked about your mama. So split screen needs to make a comeback. Number 4, dialogue options. Remember when games had those? Well, let me actually just rephrase that. For a long time, games didn't have those. Even games that technically should have had those and tried to have those did not have those because they could not fit text into those games, because the interface was like 2 pixels by 4 pixels. They could barely fit a life bar and just had some vague options for talking to things. But hey, once the technology allowed it, they added dialogue. And then they started making console RPGs, and they stopped having those options. They just added and of course okay as the options you always have in dialogue in RPG and in most games that mimic having dialogue. But you don't have any actual dialogue. You don't actually see what your character is gonna say. You don't have to think, is what I'm going to say going to change my relationship with this character in-game? Is it going to reveal something about my character, about this character, about this situation that I did not know before? Or is my character just going to grunt and then accept the next quest that comes their way without even having the option to refuse? And somehow people will not be upset by the lack of dialogue. What I'm saying is it should probably make a comeback in mainstream games as well. I know indie games still have it, and Larian insists on having the dialogue be spoken by a narrator that talks to you in the third person, which I hate, but at least it's dialogue. It's there, unlike other games that shall not be. You're probably seeing it on the background right now. Now, I would blame Alpha Protocol for doing this, but let's face it, Mass Effect did it first. I don't think anybody took any ideas from Alpha Protocol because it kind of went poof. Number 3, big boxes. I like big boxes and I cannot lie. Remember when video games used to have big boxes, when you could have a box with a video game in it? It wasn't just that DVD case that was imposed upon the video games industry by Walmart, and mostly Walmart because it's a giant-ass store that has a monopoly and pretty much distribution on the American continent, the North American, the USA, and I'm not sure if it's in Canada, but because of that goddamn store, you have everything in a DVD box. Something simple, something that won't take up space, something that can be crammed in there and not have any sort of expression, any sort of guts. Yeah, they do sometimes make a collector's edition, a special edition, or a CD Projekt game that usually does come in a bigger box, but the mainstream is just not having it anymore. There's just maybe the special super duper limited edition that costs more? to put it in a box that used to be everywhere. And the box isn't expensive to make. It's a piece of cardboard. It costs you at best $1 to do. Because you're not making one of them, you're making 50 million. Sure, that's a lot of dead trees, but it's also a lot of dead dinosaurs you're putting into that plastic, so we can make more trees. It's not an issue, but we can't make more dinosaurs. Well, we can, but I think Jurassic Park taught us that we maybe shouldn't, unless we would want something really awesome to happen. We should totally go and clone dinosaurs, but before we do that, we should have games come in big boxes again. Big, beautiful boxes. You can just sink your teeth into them and hug them all day. Number 2, actual manuals. And one of the things that's going to be in the big boxes is actual manuals. Remember when games used to have manuals? Well, there was a time when games needed manuals because they needed to explain what the game was about. Well, now that's not as much of an issue because especially the mainstream ones are built for your average moron. No offense to the average moron, you are the backbone of the video games industry. Video games would not sell millions in copies without you. It's your fault. But because games are a bit more simplified than they used to be and well streamlined, and for the most part most of them do a good job at explaining even complicated things within the game world, within the gameplay, you don't need manuals all that much, though you kinda wish that there was still one, because it's not just about reading, oh, how do I play this? What does this button do? What are the system requirements? Who made that? It's about setting a tone. And video game manuals used to be amazing at setting a tone. They used to be, some of them, used to be written in world, and I mean, they're written from the perspective of this world being real and this being a manual for something within that world. You have stuff like the manuals that you would find in Wing Commander, the stuff that you would find in Fallout especially, because we talked at length about Fallout in last week's podcast, and we're gonna continue over the course of next month. We are not nearly done with that. And those manuals had value. You can read them now even if you don't play the game anymore because they're just enjoyable. They're well written. They are a mood piece. They even contain stories sometimes about the world, about what you're getting into, about what's happening, about, well, about the game from the perspective of the game. It's not just an instruction booklet. It's not just a leaflet. It's not something so frail and pointless. They stuff it into the DVD case thing with barely any thought but behind it. No, these were artworks. These were someone's work and effort and passion and dedication, and they need to come back. Props to the people still doing these kinds of manuals. They don't work on AAA games because, well, they don't have that kind of money, and they also have something else. Dignity. And number 1 is offline single-player games. Man, remember those days when you couldn't get DDoS while playing a single-player game? When you could save your game and then close the PC, when you could load that save game without having to connect to an online server, when you could play your game on your local machine when the internet was down. Remember those golden ages, those eras of triumph of humanity before marketing and executivization and corporate think took over? And now we're living in the apocalypse, in the end times. We are ruled by rat kind. Remember those days? Those were amazing, weren't they? I mean, yeah, sure. Having an online-only single-player game has some advantages, like you having ping to your own game and lag, or you not being able to modify the game as you would want to because there's file verification processes that need to take place, and there's also the advantage of you technically not owning your game because they can always switch off the server and leave you high and dry. No, these aren't advantages, these are the opposite. They're things we've gotten accustomed to even though they're fundamentally wrong and kinda evil when you try to discern their intentions, their true intentions, because it's not about stopping the pirates. The pirates are gonna pirate it because that's what they do. Heck, they're gonna have a better experience than you are because you paid for it. and now you're waiting for it to connect to the server that's being DDoSed and you cannot play the game you've paid for. You even bought the DLC to make your horse look like a chicken, and you can't access that because the validation process isn't working. Whereas if you were to just, I don't know, have the file with the chicken horse and the game, I can put them together like in a folder and it will work, but it doesn't because it needs to be validated and there's some crossed wires there and it's not working, and now we don't have a chicken horse. And everybody's making fun of you because you bought the chicken horse and you don't have it. And that's it for the top 7 gaming ideas that need to make a comeback. If you have your own suggestions, please mention them in the comments. You're gonna have to wonder, would a chicken horse taste like a horse or chicken? That's a quandary that we need to solve after we start cloning the dinosaurs again. Goodbye.